Hello, Matt Ricardo here. A little while ago I put up a video about my experiences in the first couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks of taking antidepressants, and I thought it would be perhaps useful for me and for you, my little corner of the internet, if you had any questions to ask me at this point, which is, I guess, about 6 months down the line of regularly taking SSRI. So you were lovely, and a lot of you sent me questions, so I'm going to answer as many of them as I can, and I hope it helps. I am not a doctor. I am no... I have no expertise or knowledge in this outside of my own experience, but I think perhaps a few of you might be having the same reservations that I had, so that might be of use. Anyway, so let's get started. I did say that if you wanted me to keep your names out of it, then you could, but none of you did. You're all happy to be labelled. So we're going to start with... someone who is always happy to have his name mentioned, Mr. Brian Connolly. TV's Brian Connolly, currently in EastEnders. I am recording this the day after his first EastEnders appearance, and he's probably watching this. Brian, you were really good. Do I have to watch EastEnders now? Anyway, Brian said, at what moment did you feel like the tablets might be working? Yeah, I think this varies a lot for different people. For me, the first week that I started taking them was pretty rough. All the things that I was taking them to lessen felt increased. It was not a pleasant week. It wasn't completely debilitating or crippling, but it was noticeably not nice. But then about halfway through the second week, I felt a lightness. It's really hard to describe the effects of both depression and antidepressants without using these kind of existential terms like lightness. But I felt lighter. I felt a little easier, like life was lubricated a little bit more. And for the next couple of weeks, they were kind of ups and downs a little bit, but generally I felt better. And then by about a month and a half, I felt that it had stabilized, and I felt a lot better. I didn't feel super happy every day, you know. As I speak to you today, I've just come off a not a very nice couple of days of feeling a bit crappy. And I still feel a bit crappy, but nowhere near as bad as it used to be. And I think that's the key point here, is that all this stuff is more dealable with now. So that's, yeah. So to answer your question, Brian, about a month before it felt a little more stable. Abby Collins. Hello, Abby Collins. If there are people watching this that don't know who Abby Collins is, go Google Abby Collins and then go see her when shows happen again. Because Abby Collins is... I think I once described her as the theatrical equivalent of someone throwing fireworks into a cost cutter. And I stand by that. I love you, Abby Collins. So I've got a bunch of questions from Abby. So the first question is, how long did it take you to feel on an even keel? I just answered that. About a month. Second question, what were the side effects? I didn't have any particularly bad side effects. Again, it's one of those things that varies from person to person. I had headaches for a while. They seem to have gone away, but for maybe 2 or 3 months, I had more headaches than I normally have. And I have, I think I've been grinding my teeth a little bit. And I think that is actually a sort of documented symptom. So, you know, it's not too bad. I'm not bleeding from the mouth, but maybe that. But that's all. And my feeling is those are pretty minor side effects compared to the benefits. Next question from Abby. Have the meds affected your sleep? Well, good question. I've actually made some notes about this because I want to make sure that I get out what I want to say. In the past, one of the ways that my mental illness manifested was in my sleep. I've had issues with sleep for most of my adult life. Waking up, hallucinating, sleepwalking, all that kind of stuff. As my mental illness became a little bit more entrenched, so over the last kind of 10 years, I guess, so many times I used to just wake up feeling wretched, feeling scared and depressed and worthless and hopeless. And it always felt to me really unfair that you can do all the therapy and you can try and, do mindfulness and read up and do all the things to help you cope with mental illness when you're awake. But as soon as you go to sleep and turn your back, sometimes it just jumps on you. So that kind of sucked. So that's less now, is the thing. So they have affected my sleep, but in a positive way. And this is, again, very personal because having problems with my sleep was one of my things. I very rarely wake up now feeling awful. And when I do, and it still happens occasionally, but when I do, it normally, in the first sort of 20 minutes of my being awake, kind of evaporates. That's new, Depression is really good at sinking its hooks in and making it hard to get rid of. And I feel that the meds have helped those things to sort of just fall away and evaporate. So, yeah, to answer your question, it has affected my sleep positively. Your mileage may vary. Your Abby Collins' fourth question. What is the plan moving forwards? Well, I've got a cake here that I'm going to finish, and then I'm going out for a date tonight with my lovely wife. That's not what you meant, is it? I don't know. I mean, I think it's a kind of... It's hard to know what's part of the mental illness stigma and what isn't. You know what I mean? Long story short, they are working. I feel more able to live a better life now than I did this time last year. By far, hands down, definitely. The side effects are minimal. So my plan going forward is to keep taking them. I don't know about the benefits or pitfalls of taking them long term. I will look into that at some point. But honestly, right now, I'm kind of enjoying having my mental illness kind of turned down 70%. So I'm just going to be here for a while. And Abby Collins' final question. Abby Collins has got a book out. Go and buy Abby Collins' book. She got a book out. Come on, man. Respect. Anyway, that wasn't her question. If people feel like they need help and they are just too confused, embarrassed, or overwhelmed, what can they do? I mean, yeah, I've written down an answer to this because this needs to be correct. I can't just talk on this one. Yeah, the answer is to talk to people. Always. And not just with depression, just with every aspect of life. Talk to those who love you. Talk to those who are qualified and empowered to help. The NHS tries its best with mental health stuff, but it is, woefully overstretched and underfunded. So, depending on where you live, it's going to be, it might be very hard for you to get quick help from the NHS. My first course of therapy was a while ago now, and it was through the NHS. And it wasn't, it helped. I had a course of, I think, a few months of cognitive behavioural therapy. It didn't cure anything, but it certainly gave me tools that I still use. It was certainly a very good starting point. Therapy, I've been in various forms of therapy over the years, and it really helps you to navigate yourself and to learn to examine what your brain is doing. Use one part of your brain to look at what the other part's doing, to think about reasons for things and things to avoid and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for getting therapy. But having said that, therapy didn't, for me, have as big a effect by far as medication has. Both is what you want to do, I guess, or at least look at the possibilities of both. I've written down here: stigma is real, and so is shame, and it's true. It's, your question. You say if you're confused, embarrassed, or overwhelmed. Yeah, I feel that. If you break your leg, don't just try and suck it up and run on it. You'll make it worse. If you break your leg, what do? You go and see someone who is qualified at healing legs, or at least not making them worse. And that's what mental illness is. It's just another illness. It's just another. It's a broken leg. Don't listen to if there are people that you talk about this stuff with, friends who don't quite get it, and they give it a kind of, well, just try and cheer up, just smile, it's not so bad, really, what have you got to be depressed about? That's like being run over by a truck and having your legs broken, and someone saying, well, I know how you feel because I once stood on a Lego. So it's the same. If people don't understand, don't be too mean to them, but also don't listen to them. Listen to the people that are qualified in this stuff, and listen to yourself. When you're ill, you go see a doctor. Thank you for those questions, Abby. Love you. Who is next? Mark Moreau. Hello, Mark. I'd be curious to know if you still feel that you're you. That is a brilliant question. It's really hard to talk about mental illness and stuff like this without getting existential real quick, right? Yeah, this was absolutely one of my fears. As an artist, albeit a gloriously lowbrow one, I was scared that meds might, for want of a better phrase, numb me. That I wouldn't have had the sensitivity that lets me make things from my heart without wishing to be too kind of arty-farty about it. No, that didn't happen. What happened was, and it took me a while before I sort of self-examined enough to realise this, I felt more like the me I was when I was younger. Before something in my brain made me obsess over dark and depressing things, before there was a thing that dragged me down, that stopped me, often got in the way of my work and my art and, my life. I feel more relaxed, generally. That's huge for me. People that know me well know that I am often not very relaxed. I used this phrase in the earlier video that I posted when I first started taking them. I feel more able to shrug at things, which obviously not everything in the world, you should shrug at. But when you have mental illness like this, depression, anxiety, it's like your brain is sometimes looking for things to be concerned with and be anxious over and be worried by and be sad about. And those things are out there if you look for them, but a lot of them do not directly affect you and you cannot directly affect them. And it's very hard to have what is perhaps a healthy reaction, which is to go, oh well. But I seem to have learned to be able to do that a little more recently, which is a good thing. So yes, Mark, I feel very much like me. I feel a little more like me, or at least I feel more like the me that I like and that can do things and that can not be, sitting at home staring at the wall. So yeah, that's a fear I had. I totally get that. My experiences don't be concerned with that. What else do we have? Brett Cyril. Hello, Brett. My biggest question would be, how are you? That's very nice. I'm very well, thank you. Genuinely. How are you? Let me know in the comments. Oh, YouTuber. Have the meds affected your productivity? This is something that also Bertie Anderson also asked. That have they had an impact on my creativity? Firstly, it's hard to say, because at the time of recording this, as I'm recording this now, this is the first week that things have been open again. For the previous year and change, we've been basically in lockdown. So I haven't been working much, so things have been different. So it's hard to sort of judge my level of productivity because everything else has been different. I don't think they've affected it at all. I have been, as you can see, making things for YouTube. I've been writing. I've been, I think, fairly productive. People, Bertie is you're very kind, Bertie, by saying that my output, my productivity has been good. I think, again, like I said to Mark's question, this ability that I seem to have to kind of not be dragged down by things and to kind of shrug at things means that I'm less concerned with what happens when I make something, if that makes any sense. Perhaps in the past, productivity has been, or creation of work or making things has been hampered by, well, will anyone like it? Will it do well? Will people care? Is it worth making? And that sometimes gets in the way of you making things. At the moment, I'm able to go, I'm just going to make something because I want to make it. And once it's out there, if anyone likes it, great. If they don't, well, I still made it. That nice kind of whatever kind of feeling is nice. So perhaps that's helping with my productivity. I guess ask me again in a year after we've all done some gigs. But I don't think it has adversely affected my productivity. I also don't think it's made me manic. I think it's let me, perhaps, if anything, it's let me be a little bit more purely and simplistically creative, which feels like a good thing. Brett has a second part to his question. The old-fashioned perception of meds might just be something that spaces you out and leaves you in the corner staring out the window. That's really interesting. That is this cliche, and I mentioned it earlier, that these meds numb you out and leave you a kind of happy but sedentary, drooling wreck. And no, that has not happened. I am, as you can see, hopefully I sound like me. I feel like me. That hasn't happened. But this thing about staring out the window, it's really interesting. In my office at home, I have a desk and I have a comfy chair by the window. And in the past, always, I've had the curtains drawn and been at my desk. And that's where I've done things. And this year, I've started drawing the curtains and sitting in the comfy chair and staring out the window. And it's like a running joke. And this is something that my wife mentioned. She went, "Oh, good luck looking at all the trees." And I didn't quite know what she meant. But it's like, I don't know if it's a meds thing or if it's a lockdown thing or probably a bit of both. But I have been deliberately, and I stress that, it's not been a thing I've kind of found myself doing. It's a thing I've deliberately chosen to do. Make myself a nice coffee, sit in my comfy chair, stare out the window at the trees and the birds, and it's nice. And in the past, I would have found that hard to do because I would have been worried, oh, I should be doing this, or, should I be getting things done, or there are other things in the world that I'm preoccupied with and that are worrying me and causing me anxiety, so I can't just be in the moment. And I seem to be able to an extent, be in the moment. And I think that's really healthy. I don't know if it's the meds making me want to do that or the meds making me not want to be anxious so that I can do that. If that makes sense. But it's nice. It's nice to be able to sit and look at a view. Not all day, maybe just for half an hour. Drink a coffee, look at a view, feel centered and calm. That's something I didn't do before, and I've been doing it a bit, and I'm glad about that. I think that's the final question. Yes, it is. So thank you for all your questions. If you have any other questions, then do leave them in the comments under this video, and I will answer them. I have a nice small YouTube audience, which means that I can reply to every comment, so I will definitely do that. I hope you're well. Again, I'm not qualified in any way to talk about any of this, except that it is my lived experience, so I have that qualification. All of these things may or may not apply to you. All I can say is that this is my experience taking the meds. For the record, I'm taking sertraline, which is known in the States as Zoloft, which sounds like a villain in Superman 2, but I don't think it is. And generally, they are working. It's been a tough year because of the pandemic, for all of us in the arts and for all of us in the world. And I got to a point where I thought I would try them for years, decades. I thought about trying them and was too scared because of exactly the reasons brought up in some of these questions, that they would numb me out, that they would stifle my creativity, that they would make me not me. None of these things happened. My creativity is fine, and I feel lighter and healthier than I have for a very long time. So yeah, again, any questions, leave them in the comments, and I hope you're doing okay. Nothing but love.